When Barron Trump became the subject of a joke, Melania's decisive action triggered a cultural awakening. What began as an ordinary evening in the realm of late-night comedy took an unexpected turn. The studio audience in Burbank, California, chuckled along as the host, celebrated for his sharp humor and politically charged satire, delivered his usual quips targeting well-known personalities. But then, in a surprising twist, he shifted his focus to Barron Trump, the youngest child of the former First Lady and President at that time. The remark was brief, cutting, and clearly aimed at the teenager. The crowd's reaction was mixed, some laughing awkwardly, while others squirmed uneasily in their seats. This wasn't a harmless jest. It was a jab that struck a deeper nerve, aimed at a young individual who had mostly remained out of the public eye. Within hours, the clip had spread like wildfire, saturating social media platforms. Hashtags such as #BarronTrump began trending on Twitter and Instagram. Timelines were inundated with memes and impassioned responses as Trump family supporters and critics of the comedian weighed in. Some labeled the joke as inappropriate and unwarranted, while others dismissed it as harmless comedy. News outlets quickly seized the moment, analyzing every nuance of the situation and rekindling debates about the limits of humor. In Palm Beach, Melania Trump watched the footage in disbelief. Her son had always been her top priority, and she had made consistent efforts to protect him from the chaos that came with public life. The insult was not just an affront to Barron, but a personal blow to her as a mother. She realized this was not something she could overlook. Her parental instincts took over as she started drafting a statement to confront the matter. But this time, mere words wouldn't suffice. As public backlash intensified, Melania made a choice that would reverberate through the media landscape. She would take legal action. What she didn't anticipate, however, was that this decision would ignite a far larger conflict than she had envisioned. The next morning, Melania's team released a formal statement to the press. It was composed but firm, condemning the comedian's remarks as inappropriate and harmful. Her words resonated with her supporters, but they weren't enough to quell the growing uproar. Melania wasn't merely upset, she was determined. For years, she had endured criticism and mockery as a public figure. But this attack on her child struck a deeply personal chord. She resolved to fight back. She enlisted the services of a leading defamation attorney, a woman renowned for her no-nonsense style and impressive track record in high-profile cases. Together, they filed a lawsuit against both the comedian and the television network, alleging defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The legal filing painted a stark picture. The remark, disguised as humor, had crossed a critical boundary. This wasn't simply a matter of free speech. It was about safeguarding a child's right to privacy and dignity. The lawsuit quickly became a media spectacle. News anchors debated its validity and reignited discussions about the ethical boundaries of comedy. At the family's residence, Barron remained out of sight. Family friends described him as a reserved teenager who rarely engaged with the media circus surrounding his family. Meanwhile, Melania's actions spoke volumes. She wasn't fighting for her image, she was defending her son's. The lawsuit had immediate ripple effects. Sponsors began withdrawing support from the late-night show, wary of the backlash. The host, usually brimming with confidence, appeared noticeably subdued in subsequent episodes. Still, he refused to apologize, doubling down on his right to comedic expression and dismissing the lawsuit as an assault on creativity. But as the days passed, the story snowballed, drawing commentary from every corner of the nation. The battle was only just beginning. The lawsuit unleashed a firestorm across every platform imaginable. Cable news networks devoted countless hours to panel discussions. Online forums buzzed with arguments, and podcasts dissected the incident from every perspective. The nation was starkly divided. On one side were those applauding Melania for taking a stand against what they deemed bullying disguised as humor. Parents, in particular, related to her actions, flooding social media with supportive messages. "Protecting our children should never be up for debate," one viral post declared, accompanied by a photo of Barron during his father's presidency. On the opposing side, critics were vocal. Comedians and talk show hosts rallied behind their colleague, warning that the lawsuit set a dangerous precedent for artistic expression. Public figures and their families, regardless of age, are fair game for satire. One prominent host argued passionately on his program, "If you can't handle a joke, you shouldn't step into the spotlight." The conversation spilled out of studios and onto sidewalks, workplaces, and dining tables across the country. In Los Angeles, students debated free speech ethics during a campus event. In a small diner in Topeka, Kansas, retirees discussed whether the comedian had overstepped his bounds. The story was no longer just about Melania or Barron. It had become a larger commentary on what society deemed acceptable under the guise of entertainment. In the midst of this uproar, the host took a defiant stance. His monologues grew sharper, portraying himself as a victim of censorship. Supporters celebrated his boldness, but critics noted his humor had turned bitter, overshadowed by the controversy engulfing him. Networks felt the strain too. Ratings for the host's program started to decline, and rumors swirled that executives were reevaluating their support. Melania's legal team, meanwhile, continued their work, bolstering the case with additional evidence and statements. The lawsuit wasn't merely a personal fight anymore. It had evolved into a cultural turning point, but no one could have foreseen the bombshell revelation that was about to reshape the entire trial. The trial takes a dramatic turn. What began as an otherwise routine day in court took an unexpected and electrifying turn when the prosecution called a surprise witness to the stand. The defense team exchanged worried looks as William Carter, a former production assistant on The Late Night Show, entered the courtroom. Carter, who had worked behind the scenes for over 5 years before leaving under contentious circumstances, appeared composed but determined as he was sworn in. When he began to testify, the tension in the room was palpable. Carter painted a vivid picture of the work environment on the show, describing a culture where pushing boundaries was prioritized over ethical considerations. However, it wasn't the general atmosphere that caught everyone off guard. It was the specific evidence Carter had brought with him. From a well-worn briefcase, Carter produced a trove of emails, scripts, and internal communications that painted a damning portrait of what had transpired. According to his testimony, the joke targeting Barron Trump had not been an off-the-cuff remark. Instead, it had been carefully planned, debated, and ultimately approved by senior executives at the network. Even more shocking were Carter's claims that the joke wasn't intended merely to entertain. It was deliberately designed to provoke outrage and drive viewership. As the courtroom watched the damning documents projected onto a large screen, audible gasps filled the air. One particularly incriminating email from a network executive read, "This will stir the pot. Controversy sells." Carter's testimony shifted the trial's focus away from the comedian and squarely onto the network that had endorsed and encouraged the joke. The defense scrambled to regain footing, arguing that the host had acted independently and the network's motivations were irrelevant to the case. But the damage was already done. Carter's revelations raised serious questions about the ethical practices behind the scenes of the entertainment industry. Outside the courthouse, the testimony sent shockwaves through media circles. Headlines declared, "Toxic culture exposed, network executives under fire." Social media erupted again, this time demanding accountability from the network. Within days, several high-ranking executives were placed on administrative leave, pending an internal investigation. The once charismatic host, previously celebrated as a daring provocateur, now found himself isolated. Even his own employers seemed hesitant to stand by him. For Melania, Carter's testimony was a breakthrough. But while the tide appeared to turn in her favor, the case was far from over. The final verdict promised to deliver ramifications that no one could have anticipated. As the trial neared its conclusion, the atmosphere in the courtroom grew electric. Every seat in the gallery was filled with reporters, all eager to capture the final moments. Outside, crowds gathered, half rallying behind Melania Trump, and the other half standing in solidarity with the embattled comedian. In their closing arguments, Melania's attorney delivered a stirring summation. "This case isn't about silencing comedy," she declared, her voice resonating with conviction. "It's about accountability. It's about recognizing that words, especially those broadcast to millions, have consequences. This is about protecting the dignity of a child who didn't choose to live in the spotlight." The defense, though visibly shaken by recent revelations, made one last appeal. They warned that ruling against the host could set a dangerous precedent, stifling comedians from challenging societal norms. Where do we draw the line, they asked. At what point does protecting feelings infringe on the freedom to provoke thought and push boundaries? The jury deliberated for hours, and when they finally returned, the courtroom fell silent in anticipation. The verdict was delivered. The host was found liable for defamation, and the network was held accountable for fostering a culture of sensationalism. The judge emphasized that the ruling was not an attack on free speech, but a recognition that humor must not come at the expense of a child's well-being and privacy. The penalties were substantial. The network was ordered to pay significant damages, and the host faced both professional and personal fallout. The aftermath for Melania, the victory was bittersweet. She had succeeded in defending her son and sending a message about the power of words. But the ordeal had been grueling and emotionally draining. In a brief statement, she expressed hope that the case would serve as a reminder for all to engage in public discourse with empathy and respect. For the host, the consequences were severe. Sponsors pulled their funding, the network distanced itself, and his show was suspended indefinitely. The once lively comedian now appeared subdued, his career hanging in the balance. But the case had an even broader impact. It sparked important conversations nationwide about the boundaries of comedy, the responsibilities of public figures, and the ethics of sensationalism. A cultural reckoning. In the weeks following the trial, ripples of change spread across the entertainment industry. Networks and production companies began reassessing their approach to comedy, recognizing that shock value and controversy-driven content came with a cost. Comedians started reflecting on their material, navigating the line between challenging societal norms and demeaning individuals. Audiences, too, became more discerning about the content they supported, realizing their role in shaping what was considered acceptable. For parents across the country, the trial was a wake-up call. Many saw Melania's fight as a testament to the importance of protecting children in an unforgiving and highly digital world. One mother from Des Moines voiced her thoughts in a viral video. If someone like Melania Trump, with all her influence, has to go through this, what does that mean for ordinary families like ours? This wasn't just about Barron, it was about all of our children. A lasting impact. The trial became a cultural milestone, reminding society of the profound impact words can have. It sparked a shift in how people viewed the balance between free speech and accountability. While humor has the power to unite, it also carries the potential to harm, and the responsibility to wield that power wisely belongs to everyone. As the media frenzy faded and life returned to normal, one message remained: compassion and respect must always come first. The trial may have ended, but the lessons it left behind continue to resonate, reminding us all to build bridges with our words instead of walls. If this story resonated with you, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay connected with Elite Stories, where we share thought-provoking tales that challenge the way we see the world.